We are back with our second session of the day. And this one is going to be focused on augmented sticker making. And so there's two different components with this. And the first component is going to be more like physical art. And so, creating stickers, they could be digital, but I like to do more traditional with more of a crafting project. So taking either like matte sticker paper or some sort of paper with an adhesive, and then being able to create a one of a kind sticker using a pretty simple formula. And then from there, uh, taking a picture of that and then being able to use that as an image target for augmented reality. And so the first part that we'll do is we'll just sort of go over how to make a sticker. And then after we go over how to make the sticker, then I'll go over how to open up Unity, convert the physical sticker to a digital image target. And then from that image target, we'll start to overlay digital elements to it so that we all are able to go beyond just the physical limitations of the work the art that we create. And that can include animation, that can include audio, that can include a variety of different things that you know we have at our disposal. Okay, so the first thing that I'll do uh, right now is just sort of sketch out the type of sticker design that I want to have. And so that sticker design is, it could be on scratch paper, it could be on, any sort of loose leaf paper that you want. Um, and really, the focus of this is just sort of planning out, okay, what kind of sticker do I want? What is a design that I want to spend time working on? And it could be a variety of things, but uh, when we're thinking about making stickers that can be augmented, often the thing is, you don't want it to have a lot of text on it. You just want it to be like an icon or an image that allows for us to um, sort of represent something that goes beyond just words. And so, I'm a character designer. I like to make characters in a very particular style. I like to make things that are kind of quirky, and so um, I'll just play around with some ideas and some sketches that I have um, to really speak to the interests that I want to sort of make. And so, for me, I typically start off with just very simple shapes. And so if it's a head, I'll start off with like a circle or an oval. If it's eyes, I'll again start off with like circles or ovals. For a body, I'll typically use just like a box or a triangle. Um, Feet and hands, triangles as well, and really just see what I could come up with. And so for me, I'll just sort of just put the pen to the paper and see if there's any ideas that just sort of stand out to me. Um, Going into this pretty open ended, but that's sort of how the art making process works sometimes. And so if you want to just sort of like follow along, you could go ahead and grab, uh, yeah, you could go ahead and grab paper and pencils and everything, and we could just sort of put the pen to the paper right now. And so right now we're just sketching, and those sketches can turn into something or they cannot turn into something.
And then do you need sort of like pencil or something?
I've got a pencil, thank you.
All right. There's some coloring tools and markers and stuff down there.
Oh,
And so when I'm sketching, I try to be pretty loose with the line work that I use. And, typically I'm just sort of coming up with different ideas that I think will work, might work. We just don't know until we try. And so I have a couple of sketches that I sort of came up with, and they're sort of quirky. They, you know, I was thinking more of like a plush doll, and I first started off with just some just random designs, and then sort of settled on something like this. Yeah, I think I'm pretty satisfied with it. Looks pretty cool. I like it. And so now that I have my sketch, the next thing is to sort of take a blank sheet of paper, sticker paper, and start to flesh out that design or transfer that design, transfer that sketch to the actual paper. And the reason I do a sketch first is because you want to sort of plan out what you want to do, mainly because once you get started with working on sticker paper, the goal is to sort of finish with with the final product on that sticker paper. And so if you just do a little bit of planning first, then better prepares you for finishing or approaching the final product. And so it's just typically just doing a rough draft first, and then after that rough draft, then you move on to more of a finished draft or a final draft or a proposed final draft. And so now that I had that, I have an idea of like what I want it to look like. So then I could, think about how much space or how big the sticker will be. And, I could either make a box around it, a grid, however you want. And then we could just start putting the pen to the paper at that point. And, uh, and so I'll use a different color. Actually, I mean, I kind of like red. Red is pretty good for, as a base color. But what I'll do is I'll essentially take this drawing or this sketch and then try to replicate it on the sticker paper that I have, so that this could be the final design for our sticker. And so, I'll just spend some time just doing that, and it'll be this design that I came up with.
I see that your design is very compact.
Mhm.
Is it generally good for a sticker not to have extended limbs and things like that?
Yeah, mainly because when you try to cut it out, you don't want to cut off a limb and stuff. So I personally like to have like everything compact within either a circle or a box, um, or a triangle, sort of a basic shape. Typically, those basic shapes that I sort of shoot for something that's a triangle, box, or a circle like that. And then, oh yeah, awesome.
We have these that are like
Ooh.
cut, so we can do those if you want to keep.
Oh
them
yeah,
as
like
size.
little labels.
Yeah.
Nice, nice. Yeah. Or if you already have the sticker, like the sticker paper already, the label can act as your grid or your boundary, right? And so yeah, with the label, I'll just sort of do that. But yeah, typically those three shapes. That makes it easier. If you want to get really, really intricate, then you could just sort of have like a die cut or anything like that. But to get started, it's one less thing to worry about. Um, but yeah, yeah. I mean, it's pretty much anything goes at this point. And so I have my sticker. We'll sort of think about it in terms of a grid like this. I'll just go ahead and just get my things. Boo, 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 boo. So this is sort of the area that I have to work with. Just move this out the way so that makes it a little easier to look for. And then I'll just go through and start trying to add my design now. And so I'm working with a pen, but this pen is an erasable pen, and this helps me a lot um, when I'm working, because if I make a mistake, I could just erase the different imperfections I don't want. Alternatively, you could just work with a pencil or anything, because you'll end up tracing over it anyway. So I guess this is sketch number two, and this sketch is just going to be focused around transferring the design to the sticker paper, and then also adding additional details that you want for your sticker. And so we'll just spend some time doing that.
into augmented stickers. So there's some blank paper and some color markers on the bottom of that tray. And so once you maybe decide what you want to, like the first sketches, his sketches, what he's doing. And then he's got the sticker paper that he's doing a finer draft of what he wants to sticker. And then I think you can, we haven't gone beyond that process.
Okay.
So let's see, Justin wants to frame your object that will fit within circles or triangle or square.
Oh.
Compact figure.
Okay.
But yeah, just as a guideline, you know, just to keep the image compact.
Okay, so for the most part, I mean, this is what I got in terms of a sketch. You know, I first started off with something like this, and just through the process of just transferring it over, gave it a little more detail. It it definitely references the sketch, but I wanted to take it slightly different direction, and so pretty much this is our like first draft, and then this is our final sketch that we have for our sticker on the sticker paper. And so now that I have my sticker design pretty much done, or the sketch of the design pretty much done, I could go through with markers or any sort of thicker line, and I could you know like finalize the line work. And so now that I've done sort of like an idea of the sketch, a final sketch, now it's time to add lines, final lines to our design. And so this is no more than just taking a pen, permanent marker, anything that you want, um, and just tracing over the lines that you want to keep. And so I'll do that right now. And so from there, I just finished the line work, and it pretty much makes the design stand out a little bit more. And so instead of it just being, rough sketches of red lines, I made the lines a little darker, they're more pronounced, and they it makes the composition really let me see. Just makes the composition look like it's an actual character, illustration of a character. Just at a quick glance, you have a better idea of what's actually happening in the composition. And so again, we went from, just doing the rough sketches on some scratch paper, and then we transferred that and, created a simple design on our sticker paper. And then we went through and we just, improved the line work on it with the more permanent ink. And so now that we have that, we're able to, either get rid of some of the lines that we don't want by erasing them, or we could go through and add color to it, make it really stand out as its own character design. And so what I'll do is I'll just erase some of the lines that I don't need that I had in the sketches. And then I could go through with the marker and just start finishing out coloring this. And just by adding a little bit of color, I guess my color palette could be a little more robust, but just to get the idea across, um, going from creating a simple sketch on a scratch paper and then being able to render something out that has a pretty decent line work, that has a character, has color, and is on sticker paper. That's pretty much the process of making a sticker. And then the really just improving on it is just following the steps and being able to create something that's a little more robust. Um, but from there, we have the opportunity to digitize this and make this something that we can augment. And so, because we live in a digital age that has a whole bunch of different, bells and whistles in the, in the palm of our hands, instead of having to have a scanner that you would need to use to digitize a physical sticker, you could actually just pull up your camera and go through and actually save this sticker as an image target. And so what I'll do is I will just go through and take a picture of my sticker like that. And then within my camera, I can go through and crop it. And so I end up with, the physical version of the sticker, and then I'll have the digital version of the sticker, just like that. And so I'll just continue cropping it till it's exactly where I want it to be. And then I'll just save it. And then after I finish saving it, I can go through and just email it to myself. And I'll just call this sticker design. And then I just received it like that. And so before I move on to um, showing you how to build on the digital part of it, I'll just walk around and we'll just see what you guys are able to come up with so far. Okay. So they're looking good. Looking good. So the next thing that we will do, and what am I doing? Okay. And so the next thing that we will do is, or that I will show, is how to take this and turn this into essentially an image target that can be used for augmented reality. And so to introduce the idea of augmented reality, it's essentially taking digital objects and overlaying them over either the physical world or physical objects. And so if you're familiar with like Snapchat and face filters, essentially instead of adding face filters to our face, we're just going to add a filter to um, the digital or our physical sticker. And so at the end of it, when you shine your phone or we shine it on a webcam, you're able to take the augmentations that you created within the software and you're able to apply that to, this specific image right here. And so that's what we will do. And so I'll save my sticker I'll just save that to my desktop and I'll call that augmented sticker design. I'll just create a new folder for it. So augmented sticker design. And I'll go ahead and share my screen. Whoa. And so now my sticker looks like that. And so I could take this into an image editor like Photoshop or anything, and through that process, I can actually improve the quality of the image. But in terms of actually having it tracked and stuff, like I really don't need to do that because it's all based off of the physical image that I have here already, right? So as long as I have this, like I'm just using the digital image as a reference for the experience that I want to build with it. And so the next thing I'll do is once I have this image ready, I will go through and I will open up Unity. And Unity is just a program that I use to build augmented reality experiences. I think unfortunately we don't have, we weren't able to download Unity onto these computers, but there are going to be computers in the back, I think in the back corner that have Unity installed. And so once we get to the time where we can just all just sort of jam out and make stickers and augment them, you'll have stations where you could work there. But at least right now, I'll just sort of run through the process, and you guys could take notes and stuff like that till we get to the part where we could just have a nice little jam session for an hour or so. And so we have our up until this point, we already have our physical sticker, and we already have a digital version of our physical sticker. And so those two things, in terms of making the sticker, that process is done. And so it can be as long or as quick as you make it. Um, but from there, then we essentially start moving over to building the digital experience for that physical sticker. And so not to go into like too much detail about like how Unity sort of works, but what I have up here is the Unity Hub, and the Unity Hub is sort of the one-stop shop for everything Unity. And what Unity is it's a game engine that allows for you to build a variety of different experiences in it. And the big sort of draw with Unity is that it works as a real-time rendering engine. And so if you remember when we did 2D animation, and we were talking about frame rates and being able to change frame rates and like playing things, animation that I showed, that's pre-rendered. So in order for you to see it, it has to already be rendered. And rendering is just the way that it shows the images. With Unity, it actually renders things like a split second before you see it. And so what that allows for you to do is it allows for you to build sort of experiences and animation that can change based off of like user inputs, like a video game. And so it'll have like a library of things that it can do. And when a user does something, then it will respond back to you in a certain way. And that's pretty much how this works with augmented reality, where it has a library of things that you want it to do. And so when you show the picture to the camera, then it'll say, oh, this picture is here. Let's render that image, let's render that animation that you were working on. And then when you remove the camera, or remove the picture from it, then it will stop playing it. And so it sort of acts as a trigger in some way, shape, or form. And so that's sort of the power of real-time rendering is you could change the way it renders, or change what renders based off of how you interact with it. And so it's kind of like a conversation with technology. You do something, it does something, and then you sort of respond and you sort of go back and forth that way. And so I'm not going to sort of belabor how to install it and all that stuff because we already have it installed and it just kind of takes time. But what I'll do is I'll create a new project. And so I have projects here already. Don't worry about those. But what I'll do is I'll create a new project. And within the Unity, there gives you templates that you're able to choose from. We're just going to go with the 3D core because that's just sort of the base project that we need. And then I'll just name it Augmented Sticker. Okay. I'll just name it Augmented Sticker. I'll just save it in a particular folder. I need to make sure that I know how to spell augmented first. There you go, Augmented Sticker. There you go. And then I'll just save it and create the project. And so from there, it'll just take a little while to just load up all the things that it needs. And once I have it loaded up, you will see essentially something like this, which is called the Unity editor. So this is sort of the program that you use to build out the experience. And so I have the Unity editor up. And so there's a couple of things to sort of know about when you're working in Unity. And they're pretty much right in front of you. So we have the hierarchy, and this is sort of where all your different objects are in your scene. And a scene is essentially just the experience that you have. So this is where we'll build out all of our assets and stuff for it. Whatever you see in the hierarchy will be in this area called the scene view. And this is the 3D world that you build stuff in. So you have the 3D world where all the objects, you can see all the objects. And then the hierarchy is where it's sort of a list view of everything. So you can sort of keep it organized and stuff. The inspector is sort of where you see all of your different components and attributes to modify and change things. So say you want to change the color of something, you would do that in the inspector. And so it just sort of has all the different attributes for the different objects that you have in your scene. And then this thing at the bottom is called a project window. And this project window is kind of like your inventory. And so, you know how I have on my desk, I have a inventory of pens and pencils, and it just sort of sits in that collection. The project view is sort of where that collection is for your project. And within it, you could create folders. You could do all these different things that allow for you to have a very organized workflow and workstation. I'm a pretty messy developer, and so I tend to just get lazy and just throw stuff in folders. It happens to the best of us, but I always try to at least start off with a good folder system and stuff. So I'll just make a folder, and this folder will just be images. I'm only going to have one image because I only made one sticker, but it's a good start. And what I'll do is I already have that image that I created already for that sticker. I could actually just open up my images folder in my project, and I could just drag and drop that folder or drag and drop that image into that folder right there. And so now I have an image of the digital sticker in my folder. It looks kind of weird right now, and that's because it's not scaled right. And so Unity uses images for a variety of different things. I wanted to use it as just regular, sprite. And so what I'll do is I'll change the texture type from default, and I'll change it to sprite 2D and UI. When I click apply, now the aspect ratio of the image changes, and it changes to something that I actually like. And so After I have that done, I will change my settings. Like I'll change the device settings to like a mobile device because it just makes it easier. And so I'll just change it to Android. And so just building something to Android or a mobile device is just it uses different files to compress things, and so it just works a little bit easier. So it's just by default, just change it to Android makes things work a little easier for trying to augment something. And so we sort of have Unity set up, and now that I have Unity set up, I can go through and download a package called like the Vuforia SDK. And what the Vuforia SDK does is it says um, it's essentially a collection of files that allows for you to do augmented reality stuff by just dragging and dropping. And so the reason I use Vuforia or an SDK for this is because it would take a lot longer for me to code out everything myself. And so instead of coding it out myself, I could just download something that somebody else just made it. And by doing that, I can save myself a lot more time and I can focus on the development process. It's just like, why would you make your own software when you can just download software off the internet for free if it does exactly what you need it to do? That's pretty much what the SDK is. And so for me, I'll just go to like the web browser and I'll go to Vuforia developers, and I will just log in with my account, and I'll download the SDK that I need, and I'll just download it in this folder that I need right there. And it downloads pretty quickly. I mean, we have pretty fast internet access. And what you'll see is you'll see a package here called Add Vuforia Package. And so these are all the code and the scripts. This is the plugin that we need to make the AR experience really easy.
What is the account you have to have?
Huh?
What is the account you have to have?
Oh, just a regular like free Vuforia account.
Okay, so you can just make it.
Yeah. So it's like Vuforia is free, and so you don't have to. Which is funny because I used to have a paid license, and then they made all of their main licenses free. And so I called them because I was like, hey, I'm still paying for this, and it's free. What do I do with it? And they're like, well, technically, because we're free, we're just going to refund you your money. And essentially your money's not good for us anymore. And so I was like, oh, okay, cool. Makes my life a whole lot easier. And so yeah, it's a free account. And so you just sign up with the email address, and you just download it. And then when you download it, it's essentially just a file, like a package, a file that you just download to your computer. And you just drag it and drop it into the Unity editor. And when you do that, it's going to pop up with this dialog of import Unity package. And you just click import. And you just wait a little bit. It'll give you a dialog box. And you just click update. You just wait a little bit longer. It's a lot of it is just you click something, you download something, you wait, you download, you install, you wait, and then eventually you won't have to wait it any longer for any much more. Right now, you just kind of have to. And this is essentially this is the boring part of it, but it gets a lot more exciting. Trust me. And one thing is with the project, you only have to go through this setup process once, and then then after that you just add an image in, you build out your experience, you sort of set up your little template, and that process takes a fraction of the time. And so with it, we have we'll first check in window, and you'll see Vuforia configuration right here. when you click it, you have the opportunity to you need to accept the developer agreement from help engine to modify this object. Okay, so help engine, show developer agreement, accept. Okay, now I have access to it. Cool. And so the last thing that we need to do to set this up is we just want to add a license. And so what you do is you go to Window, Vuforia configuration, and you'll see in the inspector it says add license. You select that, and it'll take you to a license that you can make. You can just say get basic license, and this is just sort of like an access key. So I'll call this Augmented Sticker Design. Like that. I just agree to the terms. I'll select it, and it's a long it's a long key right here. You just copy or click to copy it, and then when you go back to Unity, you just paste it right there, and then you're good. And then you're ready to start making some AR stuff. One thing that I like to do, because it's image tracking, there's this thing called device track or track device pose. This is a feature for like augmented reality that works great for sort of placing like monuments and huge sort of 3D sculptures in like worlds. So if you've ever played with like the IKEA or like the Pokemon Go app, it uses a different form of like augmented reality that like scans the world around you and is able to place things in. You don't need to do all that for image targets because they're all based off of like the image that shows in the camera. And so as long as the image is there, you have something to track. And so that does conflict with the track device pose feature. And so typically I'll just turn it off. If you turn it off, it just becomes less buggy. But other than that, we're ready to go now. And so now that we have our image down, now that we have our our Vuforia SDK in, we could actually start building out our scene with our image target. And so the first thing that I'll do is actually do something really simple, which is we'll test out our first sort of AR experience with our image target by just placing a cube on it. So when I show the image on the screen, a cube will just appear right where the image is going to be at. So that's just the first thing that we can start off with. And so I'll do that first by just creating a new scene. And Unity projects work based on scenes. So we have a sample scene here. Never want to use the sample scene. You could always use something else. And so we'll just say demo 1, and this sample scene, this new scene will just be specifically for the demo that we do with the cube. And so we see at the top, we have demo scene in the hierarchy right here. And so what I'll do is I'll right click and I'll add a AR camera. And this AR camera just mimics either our phone camera or webcam for doing the AR experience. So I'll just add that. And within a scene, you want to have one camera, and that's typically the AR camera and not the main camera. So we'll just delete the main camera like that. Directional light, don't worry about that. But what we want to do is we want to make a reference to the actual image, our sticker image that we have. And so in order to make a reference, we just have to make an object that holds that reference. So I'll go through to Vuforia engine and image target. Make sure in the inspector it says from image. And then I'm going to go to my images folder, and I'm just going to drag and drop that image right into the object right there, this little space. So when I do, you'll notice that I have my let me do -90. Now I have my image right here. So literally that digital image that I used, you see it should be an exact replica, of my physical image right here. And so this is the reference that we use. And so the whole point of us saving a copy of it, taking a picture of the image, emailing it to us and everything, all was just to make it a reference for our AR stuff. That's it, just to make it a reference. And so now that we have that, we could actually use that reference to create an image or create an image target or an AR experience. And so I said that the only thing I want to do right now is add a cube to it. So what I'll do is I'll right click and I'll add a 3D object. I'll add a cube. And right now that cube is huge. So I'll just shrink it down a little bit. And so I'll just use the scale tool here. And there's a tiny little crosshair that you can see. Kind of hard to see it, but what I'll do is I will just make this smaller, like that. Make it smaller. And I guess I can make it a different color too. So I'll just create a new folder. I'll call that materials. Until you scroll it, yep. And in that folder, I'll create a new material. I'll just call it red. Change it to red. And I'll just drag that on top of it like that. So now, oops, I'll move this forward too. Oh, don't want that. So now, when I show this image target, when I test it out, it should have a red cube on top of the actual image, right? So everybody can see the image. As you can see there, fingers crossed. Let's see if this actually works. What I'll need to do is I'll need to. Okay, so I have that right. I just have to make sure that my camera that I'm using is not being used by the current webcam that we have. Otherwise, we may have a problem. So let me just make sure that the camera that I have set up is not. Yep, ooh, that would have been bad. So the camera that I have set up is not the one that I want used. Or it can be, we'll see. So I will just press play. And it should show my web camera and me, I'm able to wave. You guys can see it, cool. And so when I show this, it should show an augmented picture. Like that. And so whenever I move it around, I have a 3D cube just attached to my image. Yeah. So first test done. We got our first demo done. We augmented something. Now let's try to spruce it up a little bit. And so, because we're sort of, we're on a budget, we don't have a lot of time, we don't have, the luxury of just sitting here for hours and just making a whole bunch of different, assets that we can incorporate, right? And so what I enjoy doing or what I like doing is going to what is called the Unity Asset Store. And the Asset Store allows for us to create interesting experiences using assets, third-party assets that other people created. And so I have tons of assets that I've downloaded and created or downloaded and worked with. And I can just sort of access those on using the package manager or a variety of different things. So what I'll do is I will make I'll just download some assets that I just sort of have in my collection. And so I want I'll download a starter pack and I'll just import that. I'll download a music pack. Something that isn't too, yeah, some retro games. We'll go with retro game sounds. And I'll go with. I think we'll just start with that. We'll start with those two. So we have, so we have some like. I'll open up the demo scene. First, I'll save this. Open up the demo scene. And in this demo scene, you'll see that there's tons of different objects here. So we have this interesting little, bean cop. We have cars. We have bullseyes. We have targets. We have all those interesting things that just make for fun experiences. And then we have some audio, some retro game sounds that we can play around with. And with Unity, you're able to essentially play different sounds. You could play 3D modules. We could play animation. Looks like these aren't actually. Oh. Doesn't look like these are actually music files, but actually. Oh, this should be interesting. Okay. So it looks like I have a lot of sound effects. I don't really have much music. Let me see if I can. Yeah. Okay. And so I have tons of different sound effects. I have tons of different objects that I can use to create this effect or this augmented experience. And so by mixing, the sounds, the animation, the visuals, you're able to, in some way, shape, or form, bring the sticker to life in these ways that you can sort of, go beyond reality. And so what I'll do is we'll go back to the demo. And instead of having the cube, we're going to replace the cube with a variety of different assets. And so I'll just hide this cube. And I'll just create an empty container. And this empty container is just going to house all the different assets that I want in my object or in the AR experience. And so I'll just call this AR content right there. And so I mentioned in the 2D animation something about a timeline. In Unity, you essentially can use that same idea of a timeline and use that for 3D animation and also for sounds. And so what I'll do is I'll actually just add a timeline to my AR content by just creating a timeline asset. And so now I actually have a timeline here. And more importantly, I have a timeline where I could actually change the frame rate. And so I'll move that to 24 frames per second. And now I have a timeline I can work with. And so what I'll do is I'll add an audio source. And in that audio source, I'm able to create different audio tracks that I can utilize within my scene. So I'll duplicate that and have different sounds that I could play with. And so at this point, I could, put on my, music producer hat, and I could start putting up a score that I that can play whenever I play my AR scene. And so it could be, you know, transitions, you know, so I could add, you know, a sound effect here. I could add a hit. And I could duplicate that hit. I could do a teleport. Or maybe I could use this one. And I could add that there. And so you can really mix and match sounds. You can edit and modify things the way you like to. If I was more, you know, uh, musically inclined, I guess I would do more. But right now, you know, we'll just stick with that. But then I'll go back to the folder that I had with all of my prefabs and my assets, all my 3D models. And I saw that I had a coin. So I'll just drag and drop that coin here. And it's pretty large, but I'll go through and I'll make it smaller later. But I have an arrow, I have a question mark, I have I also have a like a bean person. All these random things that just sort of are fun and cool to have. And so I'll just make them smaller, especially the bean cop. Bean cop is pretty large. And then what I can do is I can just orient these in a way that that allows for me to show these better. So have a question mark, have a coin, have a bean cop, like that. And so with this right here, I'm able to just show these individually. And so the one thing that I want to do, because I have a timeline here, is I don't want the timeline to start automatically. I want the timeline to start when I actually show my image playing. And so I could go to where my timeline is, which is on this AR content, and I could say turn off play on awake. But then when it gets to wrap mode, I could actually turn this to loop. So now this is just going to be like an animated GIF, like we did with Pascal, and it essentially follows the same rules where we have our timeline that's just going to continue to play. It plays at the frame rate is 24 frames per second. We have it on loop, and it will just continue to play until we stop it. And the way we play it is when we show our image target to the camera, and when we stop it is when we actually remove the image target away from the camera, just like that. And so instead of it being a red cube, it's actually going to be just the sounds that we put together, and then it's actually going to show these four objects that we had that we put together, like that. And so I'll just, you know, organize them a little bit. But essentially, it's going to show like this for the most part. And so in order to do that, what I want to do is I want to go to the image target, which is the reference that we have for our image. And there's going to be these two little boxes here called on target found. An on target found is just when the camera sees the image and recognizes the image from the reference. And then on target lost is when the camera can't see the image or doesn't see the image in the camera. And so on target found, we'll just drag over the timeline object into the on target found, and it works on this thing called functions to where when you see it, you want it to play. And so we'll just go down to the function that says play. And in the on target lost, we'll drag that over. We'll go to the playable director and we'll say when on target lost, we want it to stop. And so when it doesn't see it, it will stop. When it does see it, it'll play, and so on and so forth, right? And so we'll just save it. And then we'll test it out and see if it works. There's always this like point of no return where it's all supposed to work exactly how it's supposed to until it doesn't, and you don't know until you try. And so fingers crossed, I will just show this up. And then when I remove it, it goes away. And then goes away, just like that. And so we first started off with, using a sketch, and then from that sketch we created a physical sticker, and then from that physical sticker we made it digital and we set up Unity. And our first demo was putting a red cube on it. Then from there we set up a timeline to be triggered on and off with some sound. And so now, final thing, since we started off with animation the first session, might as well just animate some 3D objects following the same principles the second session, right? And so we'll just do that real quick. And so I have four different objects that I can animate, and then I actually have a container that holds all these objects that I can animate too. And so by just doing simple rotations and position changes, you could make something pretty robust fairly quickly. And I'll just sort of walk you through how you get to that process. And so you'll see in the hierarchy, there's we have AR content, and the AR content has 4 different objects. Each one of these objects is sort of surrounding it. And so what I can do is I could actually animate the AR content in the hierarchy, like animate that individually. And whenever I animate this individually, it'll essentially move and shrink and change the shape of the 4 objects that are inside of it. And so I'll just do that first. So I'll just drag that down and I'll just create an animation track. And what an animation track is just a track on the timeline that's only for that object to be animated. And instead of having to draw everything, because it's 3D software, all I have to do is just click in the right spots to animate it, which is much easier than just knowing how to draw something and knowing how to render something in the right way. And so I'll just go ahead and click this button called Start Recording right here. And now whatever modifications I do to the position or the rotation of this object will act as a keyframe. And so instead of having to draw the keyframe, I could just move stuff around and it works. And so I'll first start off by just adding a key for the rotation and the position at the top. And I'll do it for the scale as well, might as well. And so that's our first keyframe, is it just doing exactly what it does here. And what I could do is I could actually just do the exact same thing for the end of it. So this is at 160 frames. I'll just add a key here. So I'll add a key for rotation, position, and scale. So right now I have 2 keyframes. Pretty easy. So what I could do is I could scale this up like that. And I could go someplace else, and you'll notice that the computer does all the scaling for you, right? I didn't have to draw anything else. I didn't have to do anything but just move it. I could also do the rotation of it. So I could rotate it this way. And now it adds another little, animated motion to it. I could rotate it, in a different way like this. And then I could possibly move the position of it. So I could move it up, find a position here, move it down. And just from a couple of clicks, I was able to add some motion animation there pretty quickly. So I could save it just by clicking the red button. And so when I press it, just like that. So it's rudimentary, yes, but it gets the job done. It's animation, right? And so say I wanted to animate each one of these objects individually as well. I could do the same exact process, but instead of focusing on the AR content object, I can focus on each one of these individual objects. So I just drag them down, again, make an animation track for each one of them. And you'll see that there's multiple animation tracks that are created. And so I will literally just follow the same process. And as long as I don't press play, I can animate each one of these at the same time, just understanding that they all are going to animate separately. And so for each one of these, I'll just add key, add rotation, add scale for each one of them. And then I'll do the exact same thing I did at the beginning of the last one for the AR content. So scale, rotation, position. And then somewhere in the center, maybe this one will go up. This one will go out. Whoops, don't want to move that. This one will go up this way. And this one will go down. Then maybe I'll come back here. This could go all the way over there. This could go all the way over here. All the way over there. All the way over here. You can rotate it. Maybe you could have some more rotation. And we'll just save it. Because I already started by animating them all together as sort of the primary animation that I added to it, any of the individual animations that I add to it just acts as secondary animation. And so when you look at it, it seemed like I did more to animate these things, but because I animated them technically in layers, the animation essentially compounds on itself. And so now when I play it, it looks a lot more dynamic than I actually had. Just like that. And so I was able to test it in the editor. It worked. I know that it's going to play the timeline. Everything is supposed to work, right? Fingers crossed. But what I'll do is I'll save it. After I save it, then I press play. And now we're at the point of no return. If it works, we're good. If it doesn't, then we got to figure it out. So start off with this, right? And then we have this. And it's pretty trippy. just like that. And so one thing that I noticed is that there are some times where um, the actual 3D objects go behind the sticker, right? And you'll notice that like whenever you saw the sticker, it didn't actually, you couldn't tell. It felt like everything was in front of it. And I'll just sort of demo that again. Or what you can't tell if something is, it feels like everything is in front of it, right? And so I mentioned that, animation is the illusion of motion. Where with all of this, we're essentially giving the user an illusion of something that doesn't exist, but we perceive it as existing because of the context in which we're seeing it, right? And so to sort of play on that, we can do what is called occluding. And occluding something just means that if something is behind it, you can't see it. If something is in front, like it's sort of the thing that blocks everything else, right? And so there's this option of using what is called a depth mask as a way to occlude things that go behind that object. And so since we have the reference of our object here, we know that it exists, but it doesn't like physically exist. And we see that when we have our digital objects, you can't block that actual object there, right? So what we could do is we could actually create a plane, and this plane can serve as the place marker for what our object should be. And anything behind that plane is actually going to disappear, or it won't be, it'll be blocked. And so it stands as a reference to where anything that is a plane in a plane that's in front of this, it'll act as if this thing is actually blocking it when it's just sort of the illusion of that happening. And so I created a plane. The plane is really big, so I will actually make it smaller. And I will place that plane under my image target. I don't want to place that in the AR content because remember we animated our AR content game object. And so if we animate that, then it will actually start animating the other game object that we have, our plane. And so go ahead, boom. I'm going to make it much smaller. And then I'll zoom in, make it smaller again, like that. And I will push it back because I want it to be at the same level as my image for the most part. And then I'll just have it scaled up to where it's exactly where I need it to be. Like that, perfect. And then I'll go to my materials and I'll create a new material. And this material is going to be called occlusion. Right there. And there's this idea, there's this set of code that you could use called a shader. And the shader allows for you to just have different properties for your materials, right? So you could have a shader that allows for you to have, a particle system, or shaders that allow for you to have like a shiny object or something that's metal or something that is dull like rubber. And so any sort of like physical materials that you have, you could make shaders for those specifically. And so you could go into, a whole lot more detail. We're just trying to just hide some stuff, so don't worry about it. But what I'll use is something called a depth mask. And when I use that depth mask, you'll notice that there isn't, with this material, you could see at the bottom, like what it looks like. This depth mask, you actually can't see anything because it's supposed to help you just block things out. And so when I add this to my my material here, it literally just blocks anything that's behind it, like that. You can't see it anymore. But if I hide my plane, you can see it. It's just that this plane now acts as just something to block out everything. And so when you play it, anything behind it you can't see, like that. So now what I'll do is I'll save it. And now it should have a better effect of it actually going behind the object or going through it uh, based off of adding the step mask. So we'll see. So now you can see it going behind it. You can see it going through it. But anything that crosses the plane of the actual sticker will actually have the sticker showing in front of it. And then, based off of the physical dimensions that you have of your sticker, you can make it exactly how you need it to be for the dimensions, so that it gives you a better effect. But as I scoot back, and then when I turn it around, it can't see it. Then it'll turn off the animation. You turn it back on, and it starts like that. You can rotate it around. Everything sticks to that. Everything sticks to that insert, like that. And so, for the most part, that is going from empty sheet of paper to an augmented sticker in, I don't know how much time it took, but that's the process of it. And so now for the remainder of the time, I mean, we could just play around with sticker making, play around with trying to augment some stuff, and see what we come up with for the rest of the time. And so, before we get to jamming it out, does anyone have any questions about anything? Nope, we're good.
It's not a question so much as where we're doing this right now, trying to figure out this printer, but I found there's a printer in the basement that I can print to. And there's a printer downstairs I can print to tomorrow morning, but that goes in now, but it's on the basement. So if people do have things they want me to print out, I can just email it to me, I can print it out, and then we can, so that you can work on this.
Oh yeah. So if you need a printer, we're able to use a printer. But
By tomorrow, hopefully we will solve the Unity on these machines.
we'll be able to have Unity on the machines.
I imagine.
Hoping.
If we can get somebody to review that,
I'm surprised
I
they don't
have
have.
one more machine here that I haven't installed. I installed Unity, but I haven't done the Euphoria thing.
Oh yeah.
But this is usable too.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, essentially, as long as you have the sticker, you have your image target, and then you're able to put together whatever digital assets or sounds or whatever that you want.
Does anyone have a sticker thing to email me? No, not yet.
Doesn't look like it yet, but I mean, we got like 45 minutes to sort of jam it out and see what we come up with. And so we got plenty of time. And so if you don't have any other questions, then we could just start getting to creating again.